So in a previous tutorial I mentioned I might do a tutorial on how to create a glitch mat. If you're not sure what a glitch mat is, it's just the mat that we use to affect our layer. So our glitch mat is essentially what is causing these glitch effects. So this is a glitch mat I created, and I did share a link to download this, and I'll share it again below. But if you wanted to create your own, this is how you do it. So I'm just going to create a new composition. I'm just going to leave it at 1920 1080. You can make that whatever size you want. I'll call it glitch mat. Let's call it glitch mat 02. 10 seconds is fine, but you can actually, let's go for 30. The previous one I made was 1 minute, but it's very easy to loop even at 10 seconds. It's hard to even see where it loops, so however long or short you want it. So essentially what we're going to be doing is creating multiple layers and just have them bouncing about the screen, changing opacity, changing size slightly, bit of RGB split in there, just many different things going on just to create lots of different glitch effects, as you'll see. So there's lots of like rectangles. There's two big main rectangles with a bit of RGB split, as you can see. There's a bit of like sort of checkerboard effect, just lots of shapes thrown in. And let's start with those two big main shapes. So I'm just going to draw a long rectangle. And I'm only making it long because we're going to add a wiggle on this, and just to save time on expression, we'll have it so it wiggles in the X and Y, and we don't really want it creating a gap on each side if it moves too far in the X and Y. So if it's quite short, for example, you'd see lots of space. So I'm just going to make it nice and long just so that doesn't happen. Let's position it there. Press P to get up our position. And then I'm going to hold Alt or Option on the keyboard and click the stopwatch. And then I'm going to type in wiggle, open bracket, and the first number is how many times per second we want it to move. My frame rate is 25 and I want it to move every frame, so I'm going to do 25. And the second number is the amount of pixels we want it to move from its original position. I want it to move quite a bit, so I'm just going to try 500. That can always be adjusted. And click off. I'm just going to play and see how that looks. That's not too bad. I might actually make our rectangle a bit bigger. For this first number, you should match your frame rate. And if you don't know what your frame rate is, if you go to composition settings, where's that? There it is there. And here's your frame rate here. So whatever's here, have as your first number. That way, every frame it will move. Play that again. That's not. Yeah, that's fine for now. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate that layer. I'm going to move it down to the bottom, just so they're a bit separate. I might even change the size of that second one. There we go. There's two random moving rectangles. And if we go back to our main glitch mat that I had already built, you'll see these two rectangles. That's what we've just built there. And you will see there is some RGB. So what I'm going to do is go back to our glitch mat 2 that we're just making now. I'm actually going to separate these a bit more just so they're not always overlapping as much. That's fine for now. I might even move that bottom one just down a bit. That's fine. So I'm going to select both. And I'm going to pre-compose these by going to Layer and Pre-compose, or you can just right click down there, Pre-compose, and let's call this, what should we call this? Just call these main blocks pre-comp, because we are going to pre-comp this pre-comp as well. So let's call these main blocks pre-comp, and then the other one can be called main blocks. Let's press enter. Then what we're going to do is duplicate this layer 2 times, so we have 3 in total. So we're going to go to our effects and presets, and we're going to type in shift channels. And we're going to drag that onto our top layer, and we're going to leave alpha as it is, we're going to leave red as it is, But on green, we're going to turn that full off, same as blue. Then we're going to bring the shift channels again onto our second layer. We're going to do exactly the same, but we're going to have red off and blue off, leaving just green. And then on the bottom one, we can actually just copy and paste that. So we're going to turn off green and take blue from blue. So it's RGB, red, green, and blue. I might even name these red, green, and blue. So the top one, alpha, red, off, off, green, alpha, off, green, off, and the blue should be off, off, blue. Yeah, there we go. And now on all three of these layers, we need to, in the blending mode, we need to select screen. And that is just so they all combine to create the original white. So these three colors do create white, so when they're all exactly on top of each other and have the mode set to screen, we will see the original color. So what we want to do now is on the red top layer, we want to add another wiggle. So we're going to press P again, hold Alt or Option on the keyboard, click on the stopwatch, type wiggle. And this time we want it quite subtle, so I'm going to do 5, and then maybe another 5. So every 5 frames it moves at a maximum of 5 pixels. So I'm just going to zoom in. Just going to play that and see how they move. That's not too bad. I wouldn't mind if they moved a bit more, so I'm just going to double that 5 to a 10. And that looks good to me. So I'll leave it as that. And then we're just going to highlight all of these layers, back up to layer, pre-compose, and this time let's just call these main blocks. And that's that layer done. So now let's go back to our glitch map just to see other things that are happening. And I'm just going to focus on the background for now. So it's sort of a grey. So the mid-grey is the middle ground for any sort of displacement. And it looks like it's changing. Well, I know it's changing from mid-grey to a lighter grey, then also to a darker grey. So let's look at that. So I'm just going to add a layer, new, solid. And let's just go to the colour. Let's just pick a middle grey. So let's just put that at 50. Okay. Let's just call that background. Drag that to the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is duplicate that. And I'm going to go up to our effects and presets and just grab a fill, drag that on top. We could create a separate solid, but this is just a quick way of keeping the project nice and tidy. And I'm just going to make this white. And then I'm going to press T on the keyboard to bring up the opacity. And I'm going to add another wiggle. Well, actually, I might add a random, which is the same as a wiggle, but it does it every frame. It's a bit more complicated when you have two properties on the layer. So position when there's an X and a Y, random can get a bit more complicated. That's why I like to use a wiggle. So with opacity, we can just use a random. So if I go random, and we only need one number, and that's the maximum we want the value to change. And I want it to change at a maximum of 50. So every frame. No, actually, let's go to a maximum of 100, sorry. So now, every frame, it will jump to a maximum of 100. Let's bring that back down to 50. It's not really having the effect I was hoping. So what I might do is duplicate this layer, change the white to black. Let's just see if that creates a bit more. Okay, that's not too bad. So what I've done is I've got a layer with a white fill and a layer with a black fill. Both have a random expression on the opacity, the white being 50 and the black being 70, which I might even opt to 80, just so we get some darker frames in there as well. Let's just play that. Yeah, okay, that's not too bad at all. We're getting some nice dark frames and some light frames as well. So let's move on to another section. And there is a sort of a checkerboard effect you might see in some frames. I'll just shift along, hopefully we can find one. Oh. I did just see one. Oh, there's one. So you can see the sort of a checkerboard effect. So let's go back to our glitch map. Let's go and add a new solid, or we could just duplicate our background, but let's just create a new solid. Let's just call this checkerboard. And we're not actually going to use the checkerboard effect, we're going to use a fractal noise. So type in fractal noise in your effects and then drag that onto our checkerboard. And what we want is, on the noise type, we want block. Let's leave that basic. And then we just want to play with the contrast and the brightness just to get some really harsh blacks and whites. And then go into transform and then up the scale, just so we get some nice big blocks. I'm going to up the contrast quite a bit now. The brightness. Let's just really up that scale. Let's bring the scale right up, sort of almost to its max. Let's just bring the contrast down a bit and the brightness. And let's just bring the complexity down to, say, a 2. There we go, that's what we want. Maybe a 3. No, actually I quite liked a 2. There you go, we've got some nice checkerboard there, so let's just up the contrast a bit, and that's fine there. And what we want to do, if we just play that through, you'll see nothing happens. So the first thing we want to do is animate the evolution. So as you see, as I scroll through the evolution, that changes. So a nice quick way to do that is up here, next to evolution on this stopwatch, hold Alt or Option, click on the stopwatch, that will open the effects down here. And we're just going to type time times, it's quite a high number I think, so 1000, let's try that. And there we go, that does look quite good, but I am just going to double that just so it's really quick. Yep, that looks good. Then we're also going to add a wiggle on the scale, just so the scale changes quickly. So I'm just going to open up the expression box of the scale. And let's do a random actually rather than a wiggle. Let's do random. Let's do 500 to see what that looks. A bit too much maybe. I don't mind it, but let's go down to 300. Let's play that. It's not too bad. It does get very small here, so I'm just going to go to 700. It does still get quite small in places, so what I'm going to do is go to our random expression and I'm going to add another number. So if you have just one number, it is the maximum value. If you add a number before with a comma, it's a minimum value. So let's go no smaller than 500 scale, no bigger than 1000. Let's see how that looks. So again, I'm just going to drop down our maximum to 800. Yep, okay, that's not too bad. So I'm going to leave that as it is, and I'm going to do what we did to our blocks. I'm going to pre-compose our checkerboard. So let's go pre-compose. Let's call that checkerboard pre-comp. And we want to make sure we move all attributes into the new composition so that this fractal noise gets carried into the pre-comp rather than staying in here. So make sure that's ticked, click OK. So like before, we're just going to duplicate that twice, so we have 3. And then straight away this time, I'm just going to layer pre-compose. Let's call that checkerboard main. I'm going to go straight into this. So we have our 3 pre-comps with the fractal noise inside. If we want to change it, we have to just change it once rather than 3 times on each of these layers. So again, we're just going to add our shift channels onto our top layer. Let's just copy and paste that straight away. Go to our first one. We want red to stay as red and the green and the blue to be off. And then on the second one, we want our red and blue to be off, leaving green on. And then we want the blue on and the red and green off. Don't forget to select all 3 and go to screen. And on the top one, the red one, press P, open up our expression box. And let's just do another wiggle, very similar to the first one, with 5. And I think it was a 10 we had on that second one. So we have a bit of RGB split, as you can see there. Just play that. It's not too much, so I might just up that again to 15. And just so it's different than the other one, I'm just going to put that on a 6, just so they're not changed at the same time. And that should be okay. So I'm going to go back to our glitch mat. I'm just going to select these 2 layers that we've already created. And I'm just going to put them on screen as well, just so we can sort of see them through each other. I'm just going to give it a quick preview. Our background, we're getting a lot of light layers rather than dark, so our white layer, I'm going to press T to bring up our opacity and go to our random expression. Just going to drop that down to 20, just so we get a lot more darker in there. There we go. So we're getting flashes of dark there. So we don't really want our checkerboard to be visible all the time, so I am going to add a very quick wiggle to our opacity. We'll do wiggle, let's do every 10 frames and let's do 100, just so it goes from 0 all the way up to 100. And it's still very visible, so this wiggle works from 100 from wherever the initial value is, so I'm just going to drop that to 0. There we go. So now it will mainly be on 0 and occasionally it will jump up and we'll see a 70 or whatever value, but it will mainly stay on 0. And there we go. Okay, that's not too bad at all. It's working quite nicely. So one last one we're going to add, as you might see, is these random smaller rectangles that appear. Like here and here. So let's just go back to our glitch mat. This time let's just go to our project and add a new composition. Let's just call this lines main. No, let's call it lines pre-comp. Click OK. And let's just add one rectangle. Doesn't matter what size, a sort of a similar size to how we want them to appear, so quite thin and quite long, but not the whole length of our comp like on the blocks. Then on the rectangle path, on the size, what we're going to do is add some wiggles or some random expressions. So I'm just going to click on the stopwatch with Alt or Option held on the keyboard to open up our expression box. And this time I'm going to go x equals random, open bracket, and let's go for a minimum of 10, a maximum of 2000. So this first one is the x value, the horizontal length, which we want quite big. Let's go semicolon, new line. Then we want y equals random. Again, let's go 10 minimum, and we don't really want the height of this to get too big, so let's just keep that a nice 100. Again, this can be changed later, so let's just leave it 100 for now. We can always come back. Semicolon, new line, square bracket, x, comma, y. Let's click off. Let's just play that and let's just see what happens with its size. Yeah, that's not too bad. Obviously, it's just in one position at the moment, so we do need to add another wiggle or random expression to its position. So let's just go onto our layer. Let's press P. Let's go onto our position. Let's open up our expression box. And again, let's go x equals, and we're going to do a wiggle this time, just so we can have control over its starting position. Open bracket. Let's do 25 again, so it's every frame. Want it to move quite a bit, so let's go 1000, semicolon, next layer, y equals wiggle, and let's do exactly the same, 25, 1000, semicolon, next line, square bracket, x, comma, y. So we do get an error, and that's because our x and y, although we have told it it's a wiggle, we haven't told it exactly what the dimension is. So this two-dimensional position, this first one has the number 0. I'm not sure of the exact name, but we do need to do a square bracket 0 at the end. So it's x square bracket 0. And then on the y, that would be a 1. As you'll see there, if it's a 3D layer and there's 3, your Z, or whatever you call the third dimension, will be a 2. So let's click off and the error should disappear. Yep, there we go. Let's just play that. That's not too bad, it's jumping around quite a bit. I don't quite like how wide it's getting, so I might just go back to our size expression. And the y, let's just drop that maximum down to, let's say, 50. Let's play that again. Okay, so that's not too bad at all. So now, and the beauty of these expressions is we can select this layer and duplicate. And even though it's got the same expressions and the same positional values, etc., those expressions will make it a different position, different size. So if we play that, we'll have 2 jumping around. If we duplicate again, we'll have 3, 4, and let's go for 5, see how that looks. Yeah, it's not too bad. So again, what we're going to do is highlight them all. Layer, pre-compose, let's call it lines, main. Move all attributes into new composition, okay. And we're going to do exactly the same again, duplicate twice, so we have 3. And let's bring in our shift channels. And let's copy it straight onto all 3. Top one is red, so we need to turn off the green and blue. Second one is green, so we turn off red and blue. Whoops, red and blue. And the bottom one, we leave blue, turn off red and green. Making sure to highlight all and go to screen. Then on the top one, P, open up our expression box with Alt or Option. And let's just go wiggle. And let's do again. Let's go for 5 and 5. Quite subtle. See how that is. Yeah, it's not too bad. I might even bring that in a bit so it's not as much. Yeah, it's not too bad. So let's go back to our glitch mat. And I haven't brought in that composition yet. So lines main, we want to drag onto the top. And we want to turn that on the screen as well. And there we go. So we see our lines. And this is essentially how you do it. So you just layer up and you layer up and you keep just testing to see how it's working. So let's actually just test this now. Let's go to our glitch mat. Not glitch mat, sorry, our example glitch, where I've already used my original glitch mat. So what was our new one? Glitch mat 2. Let's drag that in. turn it off. Let's go to our glitch adjustment layer at the top. And rather than have a glitch mat selected, let's select our new glitch mat 2. Straight away, you can see that our glitch has changed because now our glitch mat 2, the one we've just built, is now affecting our layers. So let's just play this through. Yeah, so that's not too bad at all, really. So what I do like to do is add an adjustment layer, new adjustment layer, and let's type in posterize time to our effects, and I like bringing the frame rate down so it's a bit more steppy. Let's go back to our example. Okay, there we go. So I'm quite happy with that. You can add as many layers as you want. I do also like to, if I just do another adjustment layer, if you have, depending on the After Effects you have, if you have the bad TV, so if you type in bad TV, there are a number of animation presets, warp, old and weak. So if you go to warp, just drag that preset onto your adjustment layer. You'll see it adds a sort of a warped TV effect using Venetian blinds and some other effects. You can turn off a certain one, so noise, I'll turn off. Color balance, we don't need either. Yeah, let's leave transform on, wave warp. Yeah, let's leave that on, and what does grow bounds do? Yeah, that's also fine. So just adds another element to it. Actually, I'm going to turn off warp. Back to our example glitch. And there we go. So you can see the Venetian blinds and that bad TV effect we just put on is affecting it quite heavily. So you can go back and you can either turn it off completely, or you can just drop that down to, say, a 5. Go back to example. Just makes it a bit more subtle. Maybe that's even like a 2. There you go. So it's quite subtle. Let's play that through again. Yes, okay. Quite happy with that. So have a play. Add as many layers as you want. Try to make sure they're on screen just so you can see through them onto the layers below. Just a good mix of different contrasts, a bit of colours in there if you can with the RGB split, and just having fun with it really. Keep dropping it into your example glitch, seeing how it's working, seeing what bits you like, what bits you don't, turning them down, turning them up, adding extra bits, turning bits off. Just experimenting really and creating something that you're happy with. So I hope that's useful. I will share a link to the glitch map I have created in the past in the description, as well as a link to the tutorial where I'll show you how to do the glitch itself. So yeah, that's it. Hope that was useful. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.